3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by Ronan, a.k.a. Hippo Rex, or the guy behind Hippo Rex. Or are you Hippo Rex?
I am not Hippo Rex.
You are not Hippo Rex, for the record.
I have had that quite a few times. People email me and say, "Hey Rex, what's up?" It's like, my name's Ronan, for fuck's sake. So yeah, no, the show's Hippopotamus Rex.
There you go. It's one of those things that if you put something out there on the internet or on Instagram, people just think that that's your name. You know?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Especially with the name itself, you know, I mean, no doubt we'll go into it, but it's Latin, but people think it's, you know, my first name.
Yeah.
Like Rex Harrison or something like that, you know what I mean? The great actor, but yeah.
Yeah. So, well, let's find out. Where does the name come from? Because you've been running with it for a long time now for the show.
So the name is... okay, I'll give you a bit of background. So I use Latin every day of my life, right?
Yep.
Every day of my working life. I'm an arborist, and we use Latin to describe trees, you know, species and genus name. So it's something that I'm sort of semi-familiar with.
Yep.
I don't speak it. I can't speak Latin, but I can read it, and I use it often. So I wanted to go for something a wee bit different that was Latin inspired, and with hip hop culture, there's a lot of reference to kings and queens when you're at that level, you know, you're esteemed or you're at a higher level when you're a king or a queen.
Yes.
So I wanted something that was a wee bit regal. And look, I'm in no way a royalist. I'm
Just for the record,
I'm a staunch Republican in many ways. But you wanted that royalty feel to it. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing was I wanted something that was grandiose or big, and again in hip hop culture, if something's fat, it's good.
Yeah. But it's still kind of playful.
Absolutely, man. So there's always going to be a less serious side to it, and tongue in cheek almost. So, and I don't know if you remember. Did you have Fat Farm over here?
Yeah.
The clothing label.
That was around about the time Rockaware and Sean John and all that sort of stuff.
It was
totally. Every hip hop mogul had a some sort of, you know, fashion label sort
Absolutely.
of thing.
So it would have been what, early to late 90s?
Yeah, it would have been probably like 98 or something like that. Yeah.
So I was sort of thinking of that sort of thing, you know, and within the lexicon of hip hop, you know, if something's fat, it's dope, or, you know, ill, things like that. Obese Records had their Fatter Than Your Mama.
Yeah.
Yep. So all these things are intertwined. I don't know. For some reason, I picked hippopotamus, like Tyrannosaurus Rex, Hippopotamus Rex.
Okay.
Now, Hippopotamus Rex isn't the exact Latin for the hippopotamus. I've actually forgotten what it's called, but I just thought this sounds good.
Yeah.
And I went with it.
You didn't know you were going to stick with it for 20 years, though.
I didn't, man. But I wanted something different, because a lot of radio shows will have either the name of songs or lyrics.
Yep.
And I wanted to stay away from the obvious. Mm-hmm. So I just made something up that was unique. You know what I mean?
Sounds cool, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't forget it. That is a definite thing, that you want something to be timeless, because if you have it too referencing certain era, then you're stuck in that era.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a good point. And look, even the design for the show itself, courtesy of Mexi, that looks timeless as well, as far as I'm concerned. The colours, I'd like to think, are timeless too.
Yep.
Purple actually isn't. I don't like the colour purple, but I like it in that
Yellow and green.
Oh man, it just pops.
Yeah.
He's done such a good job on that.
Yeah, for sure. So there you go. There's the story. I wasn't sure.
Indeed.
So now we
And also, just to give you a wee caveat or a reminder that this predates Flight of the Conchords. Mm-hmm. So they had Hippopotamus Rex.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure they stole that shit from me. Kidding. No.
That was around, what, 2008, 2007. So, yeah.
Was it really?
I'm pretty sure that's when that show came out, around about that time, 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
So that's 20 years. You do the maths. Yeah, they're after you.
Look, there is an outfit from, I think, Germany called Hippopotamus Rex. And they were on a label called Yo Mama, which was like a funk soul hip hop label. So maybe they got it from there.
Maybe. But they also took the name of their label from a song as well. So,
Oh, right.
well, I'm guessing so.
Probably, yeah, totally.
All right, let's talk about your journey and how you got to Melbourne to be the guy behind a very long-running hip-hop show, man.
Yep.
Where did you grow up? I know it wasn't here in Melbourne.
It was not.
And how did you find hip-hop music?
All right, so I was born 1970 in the Mater Hospital on the Crumbling Road in Belfast.
Yep.
So knee-deep in it from the get-go. Shit was just kicking off politically, violently as well, and spent maybe the first 21, 22 years there, and then moved around England,
What
other
kind
parts
of
of
music is
Ireland.
popping off there, though, man? Like
Punk was the thing, man.
Yep.
Stiff Little Fingers, The Ruts, Rudy.
and that's anti-establishment, just fighting against sort of
Totally across community efforts as well, man. Like music is, especially in that part of the world. A lot of the friends that I still know, you know, whether they're Catholics or Protestants, we met through music, through a record shop in the city.
Yep. And that was a safe haven. You could just be whatever.
Oh man, it was just it was multi-denominational, and it was just everybody was on the same level. Like it was for the love of music. That's the reason why you were there, and all the baggage for whatever reason was left at the door. But look, I think the people who congregated around that, who loved music, I think they were predisposed anyway to, or they didn't want to have that issue in their life, you know, the politics and the religion and the sectarianism. So I think they were maybe programmed to say, you know, I don't want this hate in my life, and I'm gonna seek it. You know, I'll seek love out. You know what I mean? Whether it's friendship or love of music, you know, it was there in that record shop.
And it was in multiple record shops, so there's only really...
There was one in particular, Caroline Music. I think it was on Ann Street, and it's no longer there, but that was the epicenter for us. So as kids who were into all types of music, but mostly it was punk, hardcore punk back then, you know, mid to late 80s.
Yep.
That was that's what we were gravitating towards. Grunge as well.
Because
hip-hop.
it was different. But what? Sorry to cut you off. I'm just trying to get an idea. Commercially on the radio, what were they playing? You know?
Oh, Tears for Fears.
Okay, so it was
Thompson Twins.
So that's the 80s pop, right?
Yes.
And so this was just the alternative to that, something that spoke a bit more true and more, yeah.
Absolutely. And there was freedom of expression, you know, the classic punk ethic of doing it yourself.
Yep.
Like-minded, you know, fellow travelers that were into the same shit you were into. Everything else was just so bland and beige and boring, and, you know, you naturally rebelled against the beige, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And just punk music, is there any kind of, is there anything predates hip hop coming up there? Is there any kind of electronic music or anything like that? Is there any other alternative stuff?
Look, we were into everything. A good friend of mine, Andy, who he got me into industrial music, so Frontline Assembly, Front 242. So like everything was on offer, and we were just eating it up, man. Like it was just, we were hungry for experiences that weren't the mainstream. And I actually don't know why I don't like the mainstream and why I like something that's, you know, for want of a better word, alternative. But
Yep.
I mean, I still like some mainstream shit, but overall, I've always searched for something that's a wee bit different and maybe off kilter or unorthodox.
Yeah. So that, yeah, and there, I guess you're going to find like-minded people there. You're going to have a lot more in common, and it's going to gravitate more to the people that, for lack of a better term, aren't the normies.
Normies, yeah.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's a new phrase, actually, or a phrase for me that I only recently found out what. No, I actually had to look it up on the internet as to what it meant. But yeah, no, the normies, yeah, that's it, man, for sure. But look, we developed it so much that we ended up. I became part of, and a lot of my friends became part of a thing called the Belfast Gig Collective. Now, that was the brainchild of this amazing woman called Julia. And there was maybe about 7 or 8 of us that basically promoted punk bands and brought them over to Belfast.
Yep.
Because bands weren't coming over.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. You know,
it wasn't an artistic sort of hub. It wasn't somewhere that was on their radar. Plus, you had the conflicts that are going on. So it's not really selling the dream to the bands that are touring.
Dude, people were scared shitless of the place. Why would you want to come to a joint that, there's bombs going off and just... Like, it's a rough town, you know what I mean? But so people were circumnavigating, possibly playing Dublin, but mostly would be playing London, Bristol, Glasgow, those sort of areas, you know what I mean? On occasion, we'd have to go over to England to watch bands play. I used to go to Liverpool on the ferry quite regularly with friends. And then on a few times we went to London to see, we saw Tad and Nirvana back in the late, I think just when Bleach came out, you know, so those sort of things.
Yep. So
that's how hungry we were, man. We were people who were on the dole or low wage, and you were saving up all your money to get on the ferry and then the train. So the ferry over to Stranraer, and then from Stranraer, which is in Scotland, all the way down to London, just to spend a night and watch a gig.
Are they stamping passports when you do this, or is it just like going interstate here?
It's sort of going interstate, but there is a little... there would be a scenario that would happen every time where if you're, especially a male of a certain age, once you've alighted from whether it's an airplane or a ferry, once you've got off and you're disembarking, there'll be this person standing there on a little dais or a little booth or whatever, and it's a copper.
Yeah.
And every time you get questioned.
That's what your motivation is.
Why are you here? What are you doing? What's your address? So just basically being, I suppose you could call it religiously profiled.
Religiously?
Well, you know.
They want, yeah, okay.
You know, you're of a certain age. You could say fighting age, you know what I mean? If you want to talk military terms. You know, why over here? What are you doing?
Are you causing trouble?
Yeah. Are you a member of a paramilitary organisation is what they're basically sniffing out, you know? Yeah. So that would happen all the time.
And you're wearing sort of punk attire or that sort of thing? And that doesn't deter them?
No. Maybe they thought that it was deep undercover. So, yeah.
Man, it's crazy to think that the people literally had to travel 2 countries just to go and see some live music. It's nuts.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, man. Yeah. I suppose it's it would be no different than that young dude Watson from Shepperton does the radio show. He was down watching the Beatnuts the other night, man. So that's quite a journey.
It is.
You know what I mean?
I'd like to think he doesn't have to cross a couple of borders, but that's it. It's quite a journey.
Or get stopped by the cops.
Exactly. Well, you don't know.
At Broadmeadows.
But man, what an effort just to go and see some live music. So punk, is that just what's on your radar because of the alternativeness to it? Anything alternative is different and you're into it? Have you heard hip hop at this stage?
So hip hop would have been in my sphere since probably The Message. Mm-hmm. I have an older brother, Tim, who was into all sorts of music as well. Yep. He was a punk, he was a teddy boy, all sorts of things. So what he was playing, he had a job, so he had disposable income. He was buying records at whatever age I was. The Message, what else?
Kraftwerk would have been...
No, he wasn't into Kraftwerk, actually.
Yeah.
Kraftwerk sort of passed me by, but Africa Bambaataa, Soul Sonic Force...
Yep.
Even the Gap Band, which was kind of weird. Oops Upside Your Head is something that comes into mind that was a song that was constantly being played. But yeah, all those were formative for me. Like especially The Message. I mean, The Message
still to this day is a great song.
Oh man, look, I would include that and Prince's Sign of the Times is probably 2 of the greatest songs ever written. Like phenomenal, just social commentary.
Telling it how it is.
Oh man, just superb.
Yeah. And just that song, just the beat itself is amazing.
Oh, it's ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I can still sort of spit a few bars of the song itself because it just flows so nicely. You know what I mean? Like if I'm in the shower or cooking dinner and up pops the message. You know what I mean?
For sure. I won't put you on the spot and ask you to do it now.
Please do not.
So you've started to cut your teeth in the world of hip hop with some early recordings and that sort of thing. So then do you start to dig deeper? Is there more stuff available when you go to your record store looking for this sort of newer genre of music?
It's pretty limited. So, and again, funds are limited. So my first ever part-time job was helping the milkman deliver milk at 5 a.m. And then by the time I'd reached 16 and I was repeating my, what do they call it over here? SRTs? Is that what they're called?
VCE.
VCE, excuse me. I wasn't the best academically. I since turned that around later on in life, but I dropped out at 16 because I got a job in working for the post office, delivering mail.
Was further education a thing that was on anyone's radar, though, in Belfast at that time?
No, it was to some people. I had a few friends who went to university, but the majority of Catholics who were living in Belfast and in the north, their employment opportunities were very small because a lot of the jobs went to Protestants.
So you just took the opportunity when you got it?
Man. Like,
job's a job.
Hook, line and sinker, absolutely. And that was... You were thinking short term, but it was a long term thing. At least I've got a job to live a life.
Because there's a lot of poverty around. A lot of people that.
Oh man, like I mean, look, I'm not saying we were poor, but we weren't well off at all. Like we had hand me downs from American cousins and shit like that there, and it was pretty basic sort of food on the table. But so to have a disposable income is then that's you can start buying records. Mm-hmm. Cassettes, you know.
They were a tiny bit cheaper, were they?
They were actually, yeah. I think the first ever cassette I bought was by Mid-Year, who was, I think he was with Ultravox, but then he went off on his own and did his own solo. And that's the first cassette ever. And then maybe Paul Simon's Graceland after that. So hip-hop wasn't even...
No. Nothing wrong with Paul Simon, though.
No, not at all. And then it all went to shit or whatever when Raising Hell, Run DMC. Mm-hmm. Even to this day, that album just sort of touches you like in a fucking mad way. Like just the samples.
Awesome cover art as well, man. You just see it.
Oh, man. Yeah, totally. Superb.
Yeah, green and purple.
Yeah. Oh, never thought of that. Yeah. Maxie was onto something.
Maybe, I don't know. I can just see it green and purple now.
Yeah.
With the sort of colour halftone thing.
Totally.
So Run DMC, and then you start to go, all right, this hip hop thing's got a bit to it. And you still listen to the punk, all the alternative stuff.
Everything, man, honestly. Still everything going.
Yeah.
As I say, like even industrial music from Germany and Belgium, like I was in there. Techno started to creep in. Wee bit of hard house. We were going to clubs, Sugar Sweet, at the Arts Centre. And then there was a student disco at the Queen's University. Would go there Fridays and Saturday nights.
They're playing alternative shit.
Everything, Primal Scream, everything, man. Just like as I say, we were going to places where the institutions were probably as hungry as we were, or maybe they registered our hunger and they were playing eclectic stuff. That we were loving it, man. It was just lapping it up.
And so at that time, the UK, well, in England, they had the pirate radio stuff sort of popping off a little bit.
Yes.
But you didn't really have that option?
No, because it was it was almost like the North was hermetically sealed, and we had to venture out. So it was a very beige conservative society that, and we're talking Thatcher's Britain, there was very little money about, so... there was very little outlets, should I say. Radio was just commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boring.
Totally. There was the John Peel show, but I didn't really get into the John Peel for some reason. A lot of friends did. They would regularly and religiously tape it, but yeah. But I would then feed off the guys who listened to John Peel. Mm-hmm. They were like the conduit, and then I would get the second hand.
Okay.
I would get it second hand, which was great, man. You know what I mean?
You let them do the hard yards, you take the good stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So then where do you go? you're leaving to go to gigs, but do you think I'm not going to be here forever, man? Like, is that kind of on the radar, or you think you're going to be stuck there for? Not stuck. I shouldn't say stuck, but
I would no. Stuck's a good word. I was just, I suppose, surviving up until I was about 21, where I had. You can't really call it a midlife crisis, but it was a bit of a breakdown, and I realised that I needed to get the fuck out. And I started making moves about leaving, and I couldn't. The weather, the poverty, like the politics,
the beige.
I just needed to leave, and I went to England. Like England was,
and that's the easy move.
Absolutely, like so many Irish people, north and south. England was, it's the closest. Like it's a ferry right away.
And can you stay there legally for as long as you want because you're part of the Commonwealth kind of thing, or how does it work?
Because we're still technically a colony of Britain, we were subjects of the Queen, so we could move freely between England, Scotland, Wales, and even over to the border to the Republic of Ireland, you could move quite freely.
And would you get healthcare or anything like that, like any sort of benefits?
All that was afforded to other British citizens, we got as well.
So it's an easy move for.
It's like going interstate.
Yep.
It's flawless. You know what I mean?
And you're starting to see a lot more colour, less beige, a lot more interesting stuff when you get... Did you move to London?
London, yes. Moved to Cricklewood, shacked up with this character, John Marley, rest in peace, John. And John was from Belfast as well, and he'd done a similar thing, that he'd moved to London. And just started working and then eventually studied as well. Started studying in 93, just south of London in Guildford, or just outside of Guildford. That's when I studied to become an arborist. That was 93 to 97. And then in between that, it was a 5-day week course, and then on the weekends, friends lived in London. I would go up to London and live there and work in a record shop up there.
Yeah.
And then that's when
your eyes are open.
Even more so. I mean, you were hungry, and then once you had money in your pocket, that hunger was satiated by going to a metropolis like London, having more money in your pocket, and working in a record shop. It was perfect.
What record shop were you working at?
It was called Barry Paul's, and it was in Leather Lane, and it was just near Farringdon.
Okay.
Or I'm going to say Holborn or Holborn Station was the nearest. So near Clerkenwell, that sort of, very close to the city, as in the city of London, the financial district. But there was a litany of people from Belfast that a friend of mine, Gary, who got me the job or knew of the guy, he was the one that started there first, and then it was about 5-10 of us ended up working there.
So it's like the St Kilda of London.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Oh, that's more Cricklewood and Harleston, but yeah, I know what you mean. That record shop itself was just Irish accents coming out the walls, man. It was mad. Like.
Yeah. But then, and there you've got all sorts of different music. They're selling everything, or is it specialised in certain kind of genres?
It's a lot of chart stuff, but a lot of R&B. And when I say R&B, I mean Jodeci and things like that. Not Howlin' Wolf or not that type of rhythm and blues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hip hop as well. Yeah. A lot of pop, but we were getting stuff at cost basically. And it was CDs mainly.
Yep.
So I had a fairly substantial vinyl collection. By the time I'd moved, I'd sold a lot of it, and CDs were a lot more compact, obviously. And
for sure. And living in London, man, everything's small. You're obviously renting. You don't have a lot of space. Like to have fucking 2,000 records is a bit of a luxury.
Oh man, and donkey all that all the way over to there. It's impossible. Like,
Yeah. So you're in London. You're meeting other expats, but I'm guessing you're meeting Australians, you're meeting people from all over the world, people from other parts of Europe. When does Australia come onto the radar for you?
So Australia comes onto the radar when I meet my ex-wife, and that's actually in Manchester.
Yeah.
So my brother, and I think he was the first member of the family, Colm, who got further education. So he studied in Manchester and got a degree, and I went up for his graduation, and I met my ex-wife there in a pub.
Yeah.
Held the door open, and wee bit of chivalry or whatever it is, and we met, and she was on her last few months of her working visa, and she.
See, it's different for Australians going over there. We were still subjects of the Queen as well, but you couldn't stay for as long as you wanted.
No, you couldn't actually, could you? Yeah. So she'd done it a few times, and this was her last hurrah, basically.
Yep.
Maybe she got one or two visas beforehand, and this was in July, and then started seeing each other. She was still living in Manchester. She'd come down and see me, and then she eventually moved down because she'd got friends there. Mm-hmm. No surprises, Australians and New Zealanders working in pubs, Australian themed pubs. So she then came down, spent a couple of months there, and then she said, "Look, I'm leaving in December."
Because I have to.
Yeah. Do you want to come over? And I went, "Fuck yeah, I'll do that." London was starting to get a wee bit stale for me.
Yep.
And I wanted to leave. I always like leaving places on a high.
Yep.
My idea was originally to go somewhere a wee bit more sunnier, like Barcelona, northern Spain. But she said, "Come over," and that was it, man.
Straight to Melbourne.
Year 2000, December 23rd or something, straight to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yep. Flew into Tullamarine. She picked me up, and we drove to her parents, who are in Ocean Grove. So,
oh yeah, nice.
For the first couple of months, I was living in Ocean Grove, which was great, man.
It'd be like paradise coming from London.
Oh man! Actually, one of my favourite views is going over the bridge at Barwon Heads, and then looking at the heads and the
it's really cool.
and the water and the river. Oh man, it's just. And then I actually got a wee bit worried when they were doing the duplicate bridge. I thought they were going to ruin it, but it's actually still quite nice.
No, it's really good, man.
Yeah.
Barwon Heads is like pretty fancy now, though.
Oh, you couldn't afford that joint, man. There's no way. Yeah.
But that's a great introduction to Melbourne, so you start to see the beach. Because a lot of people come here from the UK and then they end up in the city.
Yes.
And that's just sort of where but you got a real taste of that coastal life, man.
Yeah. Look, just to correct you, man, I'm not from the UK.
Well,
well, I am, but I'm not.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Technically speaking. But yeah.
Okay.
Let's just say Ireland, or the north of Ireland.
The north of Ireland.
Yeah.
But you got to see an awesome part of Victoria.
Oh, totally, man.
And you're like, oh, I'm not going anywhere now.
No, I had a taste for Melbourne as well, and I thought, fuck, this city's good, man. Mm-hmm. And
lots of different cultures, lots of different.
Oh, the food, everything about it, man. Just It wasn't just white people. It was great. Yeah.
And so then, where you're here for a couple of years before you start the Hippo Rex thing. So where do you get introduced to public radio? How does that happen from a guy who's staying, Ocean Grove way?
Yep. Yeah. So we finally moved up to somewhere near Essendon for a couple of months, and then finally got a place in St Kilda.
Well, yeah, sort of have to.
Yeah, I know, and it's still to this day. I mean, there's a lot of Irish voices in St Kilda. God, it's mad, man. Yeah. It actually peaked and troughed, but yeah, it's on a high again. Like, it's mad. Mm. But we moved into St Kilda. My ex-wife Kim got a job working for a travel agent in St Kilda on Ackland Street.
Oh, yep.
And her manager at the time was a lady called Lisa Palermo. Now, Lisa, you sometimes may hear filling in on shows on ABC. Mm-hmm. Lisa was and still is, a great broadcaster. I hold her in very high regard. She was the manager at the time. Kim was saying about, how much of a nerd I am and how obsessed I am when it comes to music. And she said, oh, you should listen to PBS. Yeah. We go, what's that there? Community radio. Lisa had a program on there. I forgot what it was called. She'd been there for years. And then she said to Kim, well, why doesn't he do the announcer course.
Yeah. So that's the first step.
That's the first step. So Kim and her parents, for my birthday, maybe in 2003, June, would have been June 2003, maybe. Yeah. They got me a, whatever it was, $100 or $50 cost. And it was a 2 or 3 day course. And you then recorded. You went
in the old studio?
Yep, in the old studio in Easy Street.
Yep.
I actually missed out on the St Kilda experience, but we went to Easy Street and we did the course. You record your dummy, your test program, and I cut the mustard, and they give me a few fill-ins here and there.
And you were doing all hip hop at this stage?
No. I was it was called. I ended up doing a few fill-ins, and then I got a show on the graveyard shift for a few months.
You got to cut your teeth.
No, yes, you do, of course, like an apprenticeship. So, and it was called Hippopotamus Rex, but I was playing jazz, funk, rare groove, hip hop. So all those closely related genres to hip hop, in regards to the 90s and the samples.
Samples, yeah.
Because I'm a 90s kid when it comes to hip hop. I was playing all that, and I had a full-time job as well at the same time, so I would be finishing at 6 and then having to go to work, and it was a nightmare for a few months. And then this opportunity came up. Sophie Best, who was the program manager at the time, Sophie had said, look, this guy, I think he was North American. I'm not sure he was Canadian or American, but he had a show called Vegging Out, and it was on a Friday night, and it was strictly hip hop show, and he was leaving to study in Germany anyway, and it was the first semester, so it would have been around about September, and she said, look, what about this here? And I went, yeah, let's go, and then that.
So it was Friday night.
It was Friday night, yes.
Okay.
And it was Friday night, and I was actually paired. The show before me was The Blend,
which still is,
but it's the reverse, which is quite mad actually. Bevan, big up. And then after that was Tony Irvine with Irvine Jump. Tony plays a lot of electronic music. Tony's been on there for, Christ, probably 30 years. And that's where it started, man. Yeah. That was the first. And then 20 years later, we're still at it.
Yeah, well, man, it's crazy. Like, I know that it's not the longest running show on there. Like, you mentioned that there is longer running shows.
Absolutely, man, yeah.
But that's still a fucking remarkable effort, 20 years, man.
It is pretty crazy. I often think to myself, how have they let me do this for this long? For this type of music, for this specific music or style within hip hop, you know what I mean? So it's fairly, I don't want to say it's narrow in its style, but there's definitely a feel to the type of music I play that it's not the vast array that hip hop is. I mean, I certainly don't play drill, although Papercuts did play drill in the last episode. First time we ever had a drill song on the show, so yeah.
Give him a slap on the wrist.
There was a little bit of discussion about it, but no, that's fine. We don't really play grime either, but we'll play maybe a wee bit of double time, which
I snuck some Fracture and some Scotty Hines in there.
Oh yeah. It's all right. I don't mind a bit of Scotty and a bit of Fracture.
So the show goes from Friday. So how long is it Friday nights for?
Oh man, I can't remember. Maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So by that stage, so Sophie Best leaves. Hugo T. Armstrong then becomes the program manager, and is that the shift that occurs? I'm not sure if it's that. After Hugo is Gary Seven, and I think maybe Gary's the one that says, "Let's move it to Monday nights."
And you're happier with that?
Actually, no, sorry, I'll go back. It was Hugo. So Hugo said, let's go to Monday nights, and we went to Monday nights. And then by the time Gary comes, I'm sorry, I'll answer your question. Yes, I was very happy with that.
Yes.
Because it suited me, especially having a young family. And, by the time my daughter was born in 2007. But yeah, that was very handy.
And keeping into perspective for people that are listening, this is a 100% volunteer-based job. You do it all for the love of doing it. So it's not a job that comes with any kind of benefits except you get to play music you love.
That's it in a nutshell. The other thing is a lot of the music, especially these days, there's no promo. You don't get promo anymore. So and I have for a long time always sorted out myself. So the music you hear is the music that I like, unless it's Paper Cuts playing drill. But generally speaking, it's music that I like.
Yeah, it's you at home, but you're getting to broadcast it to people, which is awesome.
Man, I feel so lucky to be able to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
And because we were talking about it on the way down here, but the lineage of shows on PBS from a hip hop background, it runs very deep, and a lot of people have found out a lot of music through the PBS sort of hip hop route. So you're kind of carrying that torch as well, which are big shoes to fill.
They're massive shoes to fill, and to be spoken or even spoken about in the same company as Chrissy or Bias or Stu. Even hitting switches, it was Reason and Pegs, wasn't it, at one stage?
Yeah, that was.
I think there was an overlap. I was at Peeps when they were doing hitting switches on a Saturday. So to be spoken in that,
and that came
with
after
that company,
the Formula did it.
Yes, it did. I can't remember when the Formula was, but it was way before my time.
Yeah, and then let's paint a picture for us in the early 2000s. Going into the old PBS studio on Easy Street, what was it? What was it like?
It was very DIY, punk rock ethos again. It was run on the smell of an oily rag. The oily rag was donations from what was called subscriptions back then. There may have been a few paid partnerships with regards to. I don't really want to use the word advertising, but community-based or community businesses that were, advertising their wares, whether it was the local painter or the local organic food store, which still to this day occurs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they're always small time. They're never going to be chains or anything. It's always going to be individual operators, and that's the kind of
Totally, man. Look, even the paid staff at PBS probably are getting paid less than the industry standard because people are there for a reason, and it's the freedom and having to and being able to be part of an organisation that provides curated music from music lovers.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is that's really cool is that people have no real intention to use that as a springboard to go to something else. They're just happy to play music that they want to play, I
would say PBS is probably, that's pretty accurate, that maybe Triple R is a wee bit more of a springboard for other people, which is fine. I mean, do your thing. But PBS has definitely got for me, anyway, it seems to be a wee bit more obsessive and nerdy when it comes to music and, yeah.
Is there a rivalry with Triple R?
Not at all, man. I always used to call them we were PBS was like the poor cousin. Because Triple R, I think, they own their own building, so they were a wee bit more financially on top of things back in the day. But PBS is catching up. There's both have got their own finesse when it comes to broadcasting, but I'm biased, man. I'm PBS.
Sure. But man, I came in a month or so ago. The new studio is really impressive.
Oh man, it's ridiculous.
Really impressive.
It's ridiculous. It is for a community-based organisation that is not for profit, run by volunteers. Is just phenomenal. Like that has just, they've surpassed all expectations.
Oh man, I've been into some professional radio stations and that was on par with it. You know what I mean? Maybe not looking out onto Johnson Street, but the viewer side, it's state of the art.
And that was done through a lockdown as well, man. So Like everybody involved, the staff, the management, the board, the subcontractors, like they did a number on it. Like it's unreal.
So impressive. So, with your Hippopotamus Rex journey, you've changed from Friday night to Monday night.
Yep.
You've gone from playing eclectic hip hop ish stuff to then playing pretty much your golden era of hip hop type of stuff with some newer hip hop in there that sort of references what your golden era is. Was that kind of the mentality?
Man, you've actually nailed it. Like it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's a nod to the 90s and then that modern twist that has its roots in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fairly easy thing to do because you've got music that you like in particular styles, so it's not to join the dots between the 90s and the modern. It isn't very hard at all. Like it's, but we also, I want to say there's quite a few other individuals that stand alongside me when it comes to content. The other contributors. We all play the same type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Some people may have different records than the others. But the guys that do the fill-ins and the show specials, it's all the same vibe.
Yeah.
It's not, unless you're playing drill.
But like you do let people come in and sort of run the show from time to time, and I guess that is interesting because you want it to be similar to what the punters are used to, but you also want those people to put their own spin on it as well,
Totally, yeah. And look, the other thing is that's what I was getting to was about promoting the DJ, because the DJ has been forgotten about, man, in hip hop. We got DJ Wolsey in to do for a couple of years a regular first Monday of the month mixing. Mm-hmm. Like he's a proper DJ. I'm not a DJ, man. I'm a broadcaster. Right?
He's a turntablist.
He is, and he's a fucking good one at that. Mm-hmm. So for Wolsey to come in and showcase his skills and give people a taste of not just what MCs do, the other element to it, is priceless. Like it's part of the modus operandi. You know what I mean? We'll have to promote that forgotten aspect of hip hop.
For sure. And Wolsey's going to come and do a show in a few weeks here.
Is he really?
Yeah, we're talking about it. We haven't locked in the exact date, but we're moving around with the DMC stuff, which is
lovely,
happening in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's good news.
So besides Wolsey, there's sort of a team of people that step up when you need to go overseas or do your own thing. Like I know that Frank steps up, and you've got a lot of people. So shout out the other people that have helped out, not over the whole 20 years, but maybe who's there currently or who's been a part in the past.
I call them the spiritual advisors to the show.
Okay.
So it's DJ Hita, Deadly, Paper Cuts, Slap 618, and Wolsey.
Yep.
Now all of those guys are DJs.
Mm-hmm. All of them.
All of them. I'm the only one who isn't a DJ.
Yeah.
I'm going to repeat myself. I'm a broadcaster. I do not have those skills, man. Mm-hmm. I know what a good tune sounds like. And, I can select or do whatever and curate. Mm-hmm. But those guys have got skills. Mm-hmm. Whether it's mixing or beat juggling or whatever it is, varying degrees of it. But
Did you meet them all separately on your journey with this show? Or did they come like a big fucking package?
No. The linchpin is Frank.
Yep.
And when I say Frank,
with a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Frank is the linchpin for so many things. The patron saint of hip hop, as far as I'm concerned, especially in this city. Like he has been so influential. People don't even know how influential he is. And
not only that, like I was in the shop a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And someone came in and blah, blah, blah. And he sort of pulled him aside and said, how are you going personally? This person might have had their own issues. Mm-hmm. He's selling this dude paint. That doesn't, he doesn't need to be concerned with what's going on.
Yeah,
but
totally.
He was because he cares about people, man.
Yeah. He has shown so much, not just the spiritual advising, but financially he's a his company, Union Heights, is to date has been, I think, the only business member to the show. Right. So to do that as well, man, to fork out your hard-earned cash is phenomenal, man. He's just...
So, but okay, let's use that as a little bit of a plug. If someone wanted to become a partner of the show,
yeah, sure.
It's what is it? A yearly subscription, or how does it work?
It is. So yeah, just get onto the website and
help a brother out.
Yeah, totally. We've got a few performer members.
Grizzly.
Yes, we've got a friend for a decade, our first and only so far, Deadly.
Yep.
We've got a few patrons as well. So it's a modest amount of people that have gone the extra mile. Look, let's not forget the ordinary members as well. So, but yeah, those people know who they are. And
yeah.
Hats off to them. Like, they've been very generous throughout the years. There's repeat members as well.
For sure. And not only but the people that tune in every week, because even if they're not members, they are still supporting the show and supporting the underground movement.
That's true, man. That's true.
But they should join.
Yeah, they're future members.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
So Frank sort of brought everyone to the table in one way or another, you sort of think, from the core crew at the moment?
I'm going to say yes. He is the
conduit.
He's the conduit, because I'm not really in the scene, or wasn't really part of the scene, especially in the 2000s. And Frank, for me, was he was almost like a passport and to get to know other people. Mm-hmm. And just over the years, and then other people. Actually, I think maybe Deadly independently sort of used to connect with me because he stumbled across the show once or twice, I don't know, back in the day. And then, how did I meet Haida? I met Haida. I can't remember the first time I met Haida, but the first time I met him properly was when he was shooting for one of Bass's videos. And then we just hit it off from there. And then he introduced Wolsey. Mm-hmm. And then Paper Cuts came in later on, so yeah. And
so between that whole crew, if you need a night off, because it's a lot of 52 is a lot of weeks in the year.
Indeed.
It's a lot of music to program. It's a lot of time to. If you put together the hours you put into that, it's a lot, man.
Yeah, they do fill in, which is great, man. On occasion, other PBS members will fill in. Also, on the occasion, me and Richie 1250 from Stone Love will do a swap. Mm-hmm. So on the Friday, I'll do his show, and on the Monday, he'll do mine.
It must be refreshing to play different kind of music.
Man, I love it. Yeah. I love it so much. To be able to play Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra on his show or something, you know what I mean? Those sort of things, just...
But you've got to think, and I know that the novelty would wear off after 20 years, but to play the music that you get to play and broadcast it without worrying about any censorship or anything is pretty fucking cool.
It is, man. And look, my biggest fear is that repetition creeps in and somebody says, oh, he played that song 2 weeks ago. But I think overall there's enough vinyl and CDs and MP3s to stay clear of that.
For sure.
Pitfall, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you got to remember, people tune in and they do want to hear some different stuff. But say I did the episode, I might have been too mainstream for some people. They're like, well, we don't want to go too fucking deep into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people are tuning in because they like what it's about.
Yeah. The other thing is, I and the other people and whoever's doing it has license to maybe shift. I've done a few things where I've sort of gone off on a tangent and sort of brought it back, you know what I mean? Like played stuff that isn't necessarily within that, the 90s and the modern version of it. So,
but it's your show, and you have artistic license to do that after 20 years.
As long as I'm not doing it every week,
But it's like this chats that we have. You go on tangents, but you bring it back to where it's supposed to be. And
totally.
With the music stuff, you can go take it on this little, maybe this producer worked with this guy and this was a little bit left of center, but then we came back to here after that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's like playing something like Gnarls Barkley, Danger Mouse and CeeLo, while probably not technically hip hop. Those two guys have definitely had their roots in it. So
Yeah, but then you just got to be careful because if you play that and then you go play a fucking Outcast song, make sure it's one of the album cuts and not the commercial one. So you know what I mean? So you just got to play the game.
Totally, yeah, for sure.
I get it. I think I do.
Yeah, no, you're on it.
So 20 years, man, it's a long time. And like, that's, if you say average of 50 shows a year, roundabouts, right? Times 10, 500, it's almost 1,000. It's almost 1,000 shows.
Yeah, that's pretty mad, actually.
It's crazy
when you mount it up like that. It looks, besides the fill-ins, but it's as you said earlier, it's total volunteer based. Mm-hmm. We aren't paid.
But even the fill-ins, you still have to make sure that person is doing it and turning up, and you're still. I'm sure there's times when you're like, you got the. Are you inside? Have you got the? Is the microphone working? All that shit.
Well, no. Technically speaking, that's not my concern. So once I've relinquished that week's show, Owen, who's the current program manager, it's he facilitates that.
It's a good luxury.
Yeah, totally. But look, the people I pick are reliable. You know, even if it's. Claire and Ken, who are both PBS announcers, they've done a few shows. They're reliable people. They'll turn up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then, so one thing that anyone could sort of sit there without any broadcast experience and say, "Oh man, I can just play songs. I can pick heaps of good songs." But that's like 10% of the actual job. It's talking. It's the back announcing. It's making sure that the catalogue of music is going to be uploaded correctly. There's a lot of moving parts to the whole thing.
There is, especially if there's an interview if there's an interviewee in the studio, like it's like all hands on deck doing the playlist that goes on, which is current throughout the show. So I'm busy typing away, chatting to the interviewee, the small talk in between the talking and the, you know what I mean, the awkward silences or whatever. But yeah, making sure that all that's ticking over. So you're almost, I'm going to say producer, I mean, broadcasting in that sense, not in a DJ Premier sense. You're producing and the announcer as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're pushing the buttons. You're making sure the music's being played. You're making sure the levels are right. You're making sure the back announcing's right. You're making sure you shout out the sponsors. You play the ads when you need to. There's a lot of moving parts.
There is. And look, there's some of the shows, some of the main shows that are on at the breakfast show and the drive time shows, and this is with other community radio stations. There will be a producer in there, somebody helping.
Yep.
So I mean, if you're doing a show for 3 hours and you've got 5 or 6 guests in, you need a hand.
For sure.
But yeah, I seem to be capable enough to do it.
But you've definitely would have improved over the years. If you haven't got better after 20 years, then, you know.
I would dread to think what I sounded like in 2004. Look, I know, I remember having a conversation once. I met, what's the guy from TZU? I've forgotten his name. Anyway, he'd come into the studio for an interview, and he said, "Oh, finally I got to meet the stoned Irish guy." And I was thinking, what? And it was because I was talking so slow. I was very deliberate, and I didn't want to...
Because you're worried about the accents.
And stuff shit up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I wanted to enunciate, and he just thought I was rubbered from marijuana, but that was not the case, you know?
Which it kind of goes with the 90s hip-hop stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
I said, nah, mate, you've got it all wrong.
Wrong, yeah.
I'm sober as a judge here.
But that is the thing, like, when people hear your voice, that's not what they would initially associate with a hip-hop show.
No, especially in this city. I'm sure it's not jarring, but people would be doing a double take.
Yeah.
Be like, what the fuck?
Well, even when you speak to people that you meet in social situations, when you say I run a radio show, they probably don't presume it's a hip-hop show.
Yes, and I always preface it that with when I say, oh, I do a radio show on community radio, and they go, oh, we should listen. And I said, look, it may not be your type of music. Oh, what type of music is it? It's hip-hop. Oh, I don't mind hip-hop. Oh, well, the type of music hip-hop I play may not be what you're used to, but anyway, go for your life.
Yeah. Because I think I would, if I didn't know you and I heard your accent, I would presume it was more in the dance realm. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I get that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I see the logic there, man.
But hip hop is what it is, and it has been happening for 20 years, and you've got a celebration coming up as well.
I have indeed, man. So we had a 10-year celebration, and then a 15, and now we're doing a 20. And again, I'll shout out Frank Slap 618, just the effort that he has put into this. This is Union Heights Presents along with Revolver. It's at Revolver upstairs on Chapel Street, but he's done it all, man.
Speaking of volunteers, like Union Heights is his business, but he does put a lot of work into other projects that he doesn't need to.
Indeed. And he's, since I've known him, he's always been like that, man. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's promoting Ransom's art in Revolver, because he did that, what was it, a year, 2 years ago?
Yeah, the seasons have changed.
Well, the seasons have changed. It's still, that's on the same night. That's part of it all, you know what I mean?
Yep.
The fact that he's still doing that there, I don't think people realise the effect he's had on the listener and the artist and the people who appreciate the artists. And when I say artists, I mean we're talking writers, MCs, DJs, breakers, all of it, man. Absolute legend.
So he's helped you sort of curate the event and the lineup. Do you want to break down who's performing?
Sure. So we got a couple of pretty dope DJs. We got Mishap, DJ Wolsey.
Yep.
And then there was a few MCs that we needed to get on board. We got Grizzly Bastard, Dill Thomas,
Dielectrics.
I've never seen Dielectrics live, which is unreal.
He was the second episode we ever shot in this studio.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I still couldn't get the fucking AV. You know when you talk about growth?
Yes.
And the way you cringe? Yeah. I still, every time I see him, I'm like, I'm sorry, man. He's like, it's fine, dude.
Yeah.
But he's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, totally, man. That I think that latest album he has put out is the best he's ever done. Like, and he's a seasoned veteran. Like that's how people should. I mean, young people these days, up and coming artists should use that. Especially having the DJ like Tupac on there as well, man. Christ, the skills that man has too. But that album's amazing. Like, and that's to date, that's probably one of the best interviews I ever undertook. When I interviewed him, like it was.
Yep.
I loved it. I like a lot of the times they can be run of the mill. What are you doing? When's the gig? Blah blah blah. But for things like that, when he's got such a impressive canon of work. And the material that's even within that album, like a lot of personal things that are there, you know what I mean, open, to be able to talk about those sort of things is just like, it's a dream come true for me, like as a broadcaster.
Yep. And he's also a true professional that gets the whole thing. Like he knows that you don't want one word answers, you know?
No, and he could talk for days, man. That's my favourite type of interviewee. Yeah. Somebody who's just rabbits on, like, where you don't get a word in edgeways, and it just you cover a lot of ground. So if you ever think that, Christ, that's a good interview, it's not me, it's them.
But for 20 years you've been doing it, man. You've got to hone your skills. Surely you've got to a point where you're comfortable with that stuff. But I guess it does come down to whether the other person on the other side of the mic's playing ball.
Totally, and you have to look. I had one experience years ago, Peanut Butter Wolf. Thankfully, it really did get accidentally erased. I interviewed him, and it was like pulling teeth, man. I couldn't get anything out of him. He wasn't that engaging, and I maybe didn't have the skills to pull it out of him. But it was a train wreck. It was just so boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, well, some people, some artists, they just don't want to do that sort of stuff. And he's an international that's come over here. Yeah. It's probably like, oh, fuck, I don't even really care. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
You need the hungry people that want to get their point across.
Totally. Yeah.
So, Dielectrics, Mishap, on the ones and twos.
Yes, Wolsey.
Wolsey, Grizzly Bastard, Dill Thomas.
Crave.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot now, aren't I?
And Traz.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
And then we're not forgetting anyone?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good. Just make it.
And the MC for the night in the, not in the hip hop sense, Slap 618.
There you
Who
go.
else could it be, man?
For sure.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
There you go.
And it's a great venue too, you know what I mean?
Amazing, right? So, not this Friday, which will be tomorrow, but next Friday, the 6th of September,
Correct.
at Revolver.
Upstairs, yep.
And you can get your tickets. You can get in for free if you go before 10 p.m.
Correct.
Can you pre-buy tickets?
You cannot.
Right.
So, it's free.
It's
There's
free.
no such thing as tickets.
Which, from a promoter's point of view, which you sort of are for this gig,
Yes.
it's kind of a bit nerve-wracking because you don't know how much people are into it until the night.
That's true, man. I mean, it is. I don't know what's going to happen.
You're in pretty safe hands, I think, with Frank's pool, with your pool, and also Revolver is a very central place and a place that people know.
Totally.
Not to mention all those artists have their own fan base as well. So I think you're in pretty good hands.
Frank's no fool. But look, the thing is, if there's going to be that many people that know about Revolver, that there's going to be, accidental
Foot traffic.
yeah, exactly. So there's always that to fall back on. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that is true. Like, if you're putting on a gig of a venue that's not on Chapel Street, that's further off the beaten track,
Yep.
you really need it to be a destination. But
Absolutely.
you'd like to think that 90% of the people there are going to be fans of the show and fans of hip-hop in general.
Yeah, and yeah.
Well, they will be.
Yeah.
You're going to have me travelling down from the peninsula for that one, man.
Oh, good on you.
So
Nice one.
I'll be there, and I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised at how packed out it is, and that you'll be annoyed at 10 o'clock when people start texting to put them on the door.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
No, not at all.
No.
First and best rest, really.
Yeah, but you look at the last gig that sort of Frank had to do with there, which was with Alacor and 7-6, and that looked like crazy. And then before that, there was the
8 year.
Jace. Yeah, so man, there's
The Jace one, yeah, totally.
well, so there's been some big gigs there recently, and
His 8-year anniversary,
Yeah.
Union Heights 8-year anniversary was massive, man. We had 9 to 5 crew, Pang Productions. Jeez, that was a great night, man.
yeah. And Frank's got. I'll get him back on the show soon, but he's also in between shops at the moment, so that's going to be opening soon as well.
Yes.
So hopefully, he has a big launch party or fucking something for that.
Look, if you thought the previous venue or site was good, this one is even better, man.
Twice as big in a different sort of capacity.
And so much more potential regarding... Anyway, I'm not going to... You know what?
Should we not say that?
I'll say I'm just going to keep stum. Yeah.
I've been on him to do some live stuff on Instagram with me. I'm like, let's do some updates of where you're at. But he's like, I just got too much on, man.
He's fucking busy, man.
It'd be 8 years in a shop and then to have to strip it back to the bare bones of nothing so you can get your bond back would be tough, man. Like, it's hard enough after 12 months of renting a place that you live in.
Totally. Yeah.
8 years of a shop where stuff's been stuffed in a corner or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be tough, man.
Fuck yeah.
But I think it'll be all worthwhile when he gets to that new spot and he can do some more stuff. Will be sick. Mm-hmm. So, 20 years of Hippo Rex. What's on the horizon for the next? Another 20 potentially?
Well, funny you mention that, because the night after on the 7th, Vince Peach is celebrating 40 years of Soul Time.
So it can be done.
It can be done, yes. And look, I've been very, very lucky. All those program managers that I've mentioned, Sophie, Hugo, Gary, and Owen have been very generous to me. And let's hope it continues.
Yeah. Would you want to do it for another 20 years?
Hang on, 53.
You'd be
73, man. If it keeps me off the streets, man. Do you know what I mean? I'm still enjoying it now. Look, there's over the 20 years, there's been a few dips, especially when it comes to the music that's being produced. Like, just before COVID, the local scene was shithouse, man, for quite a few years. I struggled to get local content on it because it was just Well, it was non-existent. Oh, the high quality was non-existent. But that's changed a lot. But yeah, another 20 years. Why not?
Why not? During that 20-year stint, has other shows come in with a similar sort of hip-hop vibe and then sort of come and gone? Or is there only room for sort of one hip-hop show?
No, well, there is one other hip-hop show on PBS, and it has been there for a number of years. Fresh Produce with Wallacey and what's his name? I'll come back to that one. But they do completely different.
Yeah.
Like we can both sit side by side, and people who listen to their show may not listen to my show, but because they're unparalleled, you know what I mean? They're so different.
Because it's more current stuff. What's the point of difference?
I think just they play that different style of hip hop that maybe isn't 90s centric. And
is there
Cozzy, that's his name.
Okay.
Cozzy and Wallacey. Sorry, Cozzy.
And when's that show on?
That's on a Saturday evening.
Okay, so you don't want to be doing Saturdays anyway.
Funny you mention that. Gary Seven for years was saying, Ronan, we've got to get you to do a Saturday from 7 to 8 p.m. so when people are going out. And I said, Gary, I've got a young family, man. I can't do that.
Give it to a younger person that wants to sort of, get
absolutely,
and then go out afterwards.
Totally. Yeah. I'm not that person. I never was, actually. I've got an off switch.
Yeah, really. Man, it's been an awesome 20 years, and I'm hoping there'll be plenty more plenty more anniversaries coming up.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us what else is on the horizon for the foreseeable future?
Foreseeable future. Actually, DJ Matab from the Dunya show on PBS just hit me up the other day saying, Ronan, what about this for an idea? How about would you be into doing an Arabic hip hop special? Because I think Matab's Palestinian. So I said straight away, shit, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Come in, pick your 25 songs, and we'll do it. Like.
Yeah. And so those concept shows are awesome for keeping the vibe fresh when you are sort of... So when you, like the other day, Paper Cuts and Grizzly had their top, whatever it was, Australian hip-hop songs.
Yes.
I've got to make sure I say that correctly because he did mention that he didn't like certain ways that you could phrase that.
Yep.
But that's cool. And then you've had the Queensbridge special a few weeks prior to that.
That's right.
So
yes.
it's cool. When people come with these concepts, as long as you know them and you sort of trust them, you usually green light those sort of ideas?
Absolutely. But look, see with the DJ Matab one, that's I don't know what I'm going to get, man.
Well, it's not going to be English, is it?
Not at all, man. So all in Arabic. So whatever country it's from, like how many countries in the world speak Arabic as their first language, man?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or even people who speak Arabic in other countries, like, well, here, France, or you know what I mean? They're children of immigrants or immigrants themselves. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's going to be epic, man.
So if people want it, will you still listen to people? If they're making their own music and it fits in the vein, you'll listen to it and you'll potentially play it for people if they reach out?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it's something that I have to like. Yeah. It has to suit my ear. Mm-hmm. There's been a few things over the years with maybe that haven't been suited, and that usually comes with guests, which is fine. But that's all part of it, man. That's not the show itself. That's a slip road. Mm-hmm. Once every couple of weeks, which is fine to do. But yeah, no, it's good.
Let's spitball some ideas for some other concept shows that maybe aren't necessarily in your wheelhouse to do. What would you like to do? The Arabic one, obviously, is something you're not that across.
Yeah, totally.
What other sort of genres within the genre could we do?
Oh, instrumentals.
That's cool.
DJs, like turntablism.
Yep.
Female artists.
There is a bit of a void in the female representation in some of these elements of hip hop in this country, though, isn't there? Not to say they're not out there, but there just isn't as many as we would hopefully like.
Even on Hippopotamus Rex, man, there's a lack of, like, it's...
So we need more female MCs, more female DJs, more female producers to hit you up?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, please. Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, it's definitely lacking. It's over the years, I've had a few people, text in on the incoming SMS to say, where's the female content at? But there's definitely a gap.
It's a funny scenario because as much as everybody wants to be respectful to all people,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had a similar sort of thing here where people say there's not enough female representation on the show, but you also don't want to invite people in to tick boxes. You want to do it for the right merit.
Totally.
And I'm very mindful of that. I don't want to just have 50-50 male, female, or people of different orientation, backgrounds, whatever, just to tick boxes.
Sure.
But you need those people to come forward and want to do it. And that's, I think, what a lot of people don't understand, that you can't force people that don't want to do it to do something.
No, that's true. But look, the other thing is, and I suppose it's the balance of, because the onus is on us, as in you and I, as broadcasters for whatever format we're in, is to continually play underrepresented, queer MCs or DJs or female producers or whatever. The more we play that type of music, then the more minority groups will realise that it is a safe place for people to come and listen to, and then have the courage to provide the music, or even the courage to become artists themselves.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's a tough scenario when you're primarily dealing with 90s hip-hop, which is probably the most misogynistic and homophobic style of music of all time.
Totally, man. Yeah, no, you've nailed
and
that.
It's changed, though.
Oh,
since,
totally.
But from that specific group, I don't think you'd find more misogynistic or homophobic kind of lyrics ever.
It goes hand in hand, like, doesn't it? Mm.
But it's changed.
Oh, for sure. Nowadays, yeah. I mean, especially with local content, the difference in 20 years ago compared to the lyrical content now, it's poles apart, man. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And it is progressing. I think a lot of people get caught up. The people that don't dig into the music enough say, "Oh, hip hop sucks now. It's all just mumble rap and blah blah blah." But that's if you just listen to that stuff. Mm-hmm. If you dig deep, there's people writing extremely intricate, mind-bending lyrics. You just have to dig for that, and you're not going to get it in any commercial avenues.
No, not at all, man.
Yeah.
And like a perfect example would be the 9 to 5 crew. Primitive One, Cadet X, like all those guys, they are like a shining light for the future. You know what I mean? What hip hop, especially in this city, is going to look like and does look like. So, musically and lyrically, they're fantastic.
Yeah, and you mentioned Cadet X, the gig last couple of weeks, the Beatnuts gig, some awesome local talent. Was that a good gig? I was sick, man. I missed that one.
I actually only rocked up for the Deadly. I got the train just to see Deadly, and then Hada drove me home. So I didn't see anybody else.
Yeah.
So
not even the Beatnuts.
Nah, and I've never seen the Beatnuts. I couldn't, man. I had family commitments. Like, I just couldn't. I couldn't prolong my stay, unfortunately.
Fair enough, but we don't endorse that. If you go to a gig, you should watch everybody.
Absolutely, for sure.
If you can.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can. All right, man. Do you want to shout out anybody before we sort of wrap it up? Obviously, we've spoken about your gig, and we've got a lot of future episodes to look forward to. But that's the next thing that's happening. Do you want to shout out anybody else, or tell us what else is happening besides the regular Monday night stuff?
Look, I would just like to reinforce my gratitude towards Hada, Wolsey, Slap 618, Deadly, and Paper Cuts. Over the years, they've helped me. They've given me a chop out. But I suppose importantly, or as importantly, is the fact that they've taught me so much about the history of hip hop in this country. Mm-hmm. Like when I came here in 2000, it was a blank slate. I actually didn't have an ear for it. I wasn't a fan until I heard Jules's Down Pressure album. Yep. With actually, I played the track the other night with Raf Boogie.
I sent him the screenshot of the playlist.
Oh right, yeah. That I didn't come to the party until then. And obviously, being a broadcaster and being hungry for information, I needed. It can be quite hard to find it, and then to literally have conversations with these people in the background to fill the gaps. To I suppose bring into focus the family tree. AKA brothers. Those sort of things. Raising Torquay, Prowler. Just everything that is almost hidden that people don't really hear of. Sure. I got that firsthand from the people that lived it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And even then, you're still getting the sort of Melbourne skewed version. You go to Sydney and they'll be like, oh, well, it was a bit different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Which is interesting in itself.
It really is. And look, there's some things that help that journey along the way. I mean, the stuff that Miles Ago Records is doing by re-releasing a lot of these things.
Really cool. And the artwork looks awesome. And it's just,
Shit getting remastered as well. So, maybe once upon a time when it was originally released, it didn't sound that crash hot. But what those guys have done at that label's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I really feel like, and I don't want to bite off too much that I can chew, but I'd love to do some more documenting and talk to people. And so you could kind of have some series that people could watch to understand where it all came from. And that's kind of like my grand plan down the track, which is it's a large undertaking, but there isn't really much that's been documented for that sort of stuff where you could say to someone who doesn't understand, check this out and you'll get it,
Oh, yeah, totally. Actually, AKA Brothers would be a great way to start, man, just to begin that and their story as well. I mean, there's an album that's out there somewhere that's a promo album that I've never heard that I'd love to hear. And they would have been probably the most credible that were maybe touching and not hitting the mainstream, but being recognised in a broader sense. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that would be a great way to start, regardless of, if you're an artist or a listener, to begin with them would be a good start.
Yeah. Well, Ronan, man, I appreciate you coming in. I know it's a long way for you, man, but I appreciate it. And I look forward to listening to plenty more Monday night Hippo Rex episodes and your gig next Friday too.
Yes, looking forward to that, man. Cannot wait.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, dude.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Take care.
3,000.